Hi guys, welcome back to my channel where I share my healing journey, my spiritual journey, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between, nothing but authenticity here. I want to talk about strength, and my story and how I become, very strong woman, and coming from an empath's point of view, an empath, anointed, chosen, which means chosen child. We're called to break the generational curses in our bloodline. And anyways, and so how I, and sometimes you could, from the point of a woman that, is mentally strong and mentally, physically, all the stuff, mentally, physically, independently, and I, watched again. I watched my mother, at a young age, and now that I healed and I've done a lot of inner work, 15 years, and continue doing it. I've gotten really deep into my healing and doing the work. And so I look back, my mother, and I watched her in a certain age. She wasn't able, her mother left with the youngest, and she was left to watch her sister, and while her dad worked a lot, and she didn't have no one there for her, to tell her about the birds and bees, all that stuff. And whatever, she watched her dad, and I didn't get to hear a lot of that, because my grandma died before I got to talk to her and meet her. And, I didn't really talk a lot with my grandpa about that, my mom's dad. And so, but yeah, so she, through her life, wasn't called to break the cycles. It was passed on to me, or her mother wasn't called. So, and especially in, all the cycles, you know what I mean? The abuse, all that stuff, like mental, physical. So my mother, I watched her, my dad, was able to physically take care of her. And then she left, the narcissist, okay? And my stepdad, and who was, again, met her, charmed her, sold her the illusion. It's crazy. Anyways, and so, but I look back where I'm at, and, and breaking generational curse from, the narcissist, like this, I was called to break, in my life, Anyways, and so, but I seen her, go through a lot, and slowly, then he started, abuse, at first, he was good, he took care, right? You know what I mean? Like, and same thing, and then all of a sudden turned, and, she had like 3 kids with him. Then she had us 3 with my dad. And anyways, just watching, her be abandoned, financially by my dad, and mentally wasn't being able to there. My dad's an amazing dad, but generational things again, And then the narcissist, my stepdad, was physically, emotionally, financial abusive to her. And again, anyways, and so seeing that, and just watching like what she went through, you know what I mean, with men and stuff like that. And at 20, again, then, is really sad, you know what I mean? A lot of abuse, just a lot of mental, a lot of, you know what I mean? Like, and so when she passed away, I was 26 years old. That's when, again, I share how the Lord led me, and to that cross, and I surrendered my life. And at that point, I was ready to go through what I needed to go through. And I didn't know I was going to go through all this, but trials and, when you're really breaking cycles, I get a little emotional, but when you're really breaking cycles, I mean, it's not easy. So, anyway, so I went through, again, so much these last 15 years of breaking these, and really determined, you know what I mean? Like, I just didn't want to follow the same footsteps. So I went through the same thing, you know what I mean? And then, coming from poverty, just broken, you know what I mean? Like at the cross, you know what I mean? I just remember, again, I was excited and to surrender my life. And at that point too, it was something new. It was like I was excited for something, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know what at the time, but I was very excited and I was very determined. And I was, like I said, I was 26, partying, doing all this stuff and going down the same paths, you know what I mean? And cycles of men, like when I was younger, and anyways, and so yeah, my spirit led me when I was 26 years old. And so I went through, you know what I mean? Like, and I just remember, throughout my journey, and then going through a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? Like, and working and mental health and just, healing a lot of mental health stuff, you know what I mean? Like that was in my bloodline, you know what I mean? And, man, I remember that, like, you guys, I remember coming across, I was so emotional, guys. Like, I can't believe, like, I just look and I'm like so healed, like my emotions, everything. I did so much work where you know what I mean? Like, and I'm very emotionally intelligent. I'm very, you know what I'm saying? Like all this stuff I look at and it's like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, and I worked so hard. And I just remember, you guys, like, I got everything from the ground up, you know what I mean? I watched what she went through and I didn't want that in a good way, you know what I mean? Like I don't have no hate. Again, when I was going through, breaking these cycles, stuff like that, towards men and things like that, but I will not deal with, any of what my mom went through, you know what I mean? Like, and so going through this journey and the trials made me stronger as a woman. I had no choice but to but in my life to depend on God. I didn't have, my dad, tried, he can, but generational things, wasn't emotionally available, speaking to my life, and anyways, and, my brothers counted on me, you know what I mean? Like when my mom passed away, I was the one that was, again, chosen child, you know what I mean? That means like you're one that always everybody's looking to, even, when I was younger and in my childhood, and then when my mom died, and then you go through so much, and anyways, that makes you have no choice but you have to rely on to God, and it's because they weren't given to me. I was given to everybody else. You know what I mean? And then your empath on top of that, all these chosen empath and generation curse breaker. You know what I mean? So all these things that you have to, go through a process of learning how to, how do you say, like organize, but like process them the right way. You know what I mean? Like, and so, again, we go through life lessons, you know what I mean? Like it's a very, unhealed. So I was very open and vulnerable and sweet, you know what I mean? But it wasn't in a way where I didn't have boundaries. I didn't have, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know, I was like sweet, you know what I mean? Like, and just very, very overly vulnerable, you know what I mean? When I first came to the cross, so I didn't, I was hurt a lot. And now I know who I am, after 15 years, I'm like, have built a firm foundation. But then I did, these are things I had to learn to become the woman I am today, and that's why I'm so strong, you know what I mean? Like, and, but I had to, you know what I mean? Like go through so much, you know what I mean? Like, when I needed people, they weren't there, you know what I mean? It was like, I always felt like I was the one, you know what I mean? Like, and then always coming to the rescue, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I got you, and no one was coming to help me, you know what I mean? And so this is coming from an empath, and, you go through all this stuff and it's like, wow, like, and you're strong and you have no choice. Anyways, and so again, toxicity, you know what I mean? Like, again, watching the abuse, and helping my brother, going through his thing, helping him in his situations, you know what I mean? And then their alcoholism and all this stuff like that, and you, tend to learn to, have no choice, it's like a strength that you don't know you have, you know what I mean? And so anyways, yeah. And then, when she passed away, I felt like I had to fill in the place of my mother for my brothers, and you know what I mean? Like, and just one thing after another, you know what I mean? And then, these are the trials that make, you know what I mean? Like, and I love my strength, but how can I say, like, I just have this strength that I don't, you know what I mean? Like, and then, walking through, going through this journey and stuff like that, and then breaking and coming across the narcissist that, again, I was called to break this cycle, which I share my narcissist story, and then coming across a toxic individual that chose to work against me and from the start, and all of that stuff as I share and stuff like that, and abusive, not physical, mentally, verbally, you know what I mean? Like same old stuff, you know what I mean? In my situation, just, you know what I mean? Like, and so, but like all I could think of is like, hell no, you know what I mean? Even when I went through stuff, I went through that, you know what I mean? Like, all I could think of was my mother, you know what I mean? All I could think of was like, you know what I mean? That's not tolerable, you know what I mean? And then I had to learn this. I learned a lot, okay? So breaking this, what I went through and, in my situation. And, I mean, like, ugh, you know what I mean? And so, and I mean, some hard shit, you know what I mean? But all I could say is like, and I knew, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm thankful because my mother was my guidance. Even when she wasn't here, she was my guidance. And, it's like, I remember what she went through. And it's like, and then it was like, and the Lord speaking through me and all this stuff like that. And my angels and stuff like that helped me guide it through, breaking it from a demonic, how do you say it? Demonic warlock or whatever you want to call him. It was someone that did witchcraft on me and stuff like that. Very jealous and envious. And, again, learning my lessons and my value. I had to learn a lot, that's what the point is of breaking a generous Christian narcissist, is learning your value and learning, because these people are very toxic people. And, it's, it's a lesson, you know what I mean? Like, and it's learning what love was not. That's why God will put them in your life first, you know what I mean? Because you're breaking those cycles, you know what I mean? And I broke it really well. And I wanted to make sure I broke it, you know what I mean? And I learned a lot. I'll speak a lot on this. And what love is not, okay? And, that made me even stronger, you know what I mean? It's like, right? And like, as the enemy, you know what I mean? Like, what the devil meant for evil, God meant for good, and he turned it around in my life, you know what I mean? And it made me strong. Get what I'm saying? Like, you go through these things, and I'm like, unbelievably strong for what I am called here to do, you know what I mean? And I come across a beautiful woman and, man too in this world and stuff like that. And I help people, and especially when it's toxic. I go out here, I'm very, very passionate about that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very passionate about abuse, you know what I mean? Like, and then, it's not tolerable, you know what I mean? Like, and so I had to go through this stuff, you know what I mean? Like, and this is what made me strong, you know what I mean? Like, and not to rely on man, you know what I mean? And I just remember what my mom went through. I'm not gonna rely on nobody. When God has equipped you with everything you need inside you, you know what I mean? I'm talking about like in a toxic way, okay? And this is when you go through narcissistic abuse, they want you to, it's like demonic is what I went through, they want you to bow down and like, you know what I mean? Like, and, like the one I was dealing with, was really big ego, prideful, like that is not love, you know what I mean? And, anyways, I had to go through like all this stuff, and as I share, but like, and that is not love, you know what I mean? That's obsession, that's toxic, you know what I mean? Like, and each individual, the Lord taught me, anyways, I had to be strong through all this, you know what I mean? And with this, what I went through this person, and, and God evolved me, and then I healed from, a lot of the stuff, and you just like, it's unbelievable, and then it's like more strength, you know what I mean? It's like, dang, pretty soon I'm gonna be like the Hulk, you know what I mean? I'm just kidding. I'm the Hulk for the spiritual realm, for the Jesus, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, Lord, no more, okay? No, anyways, but like, I had no choice, you know what I mean? You don't have a choice. Like, it's like, I will not tolerate abuse. I will not allow that. I'd rather do what I need to do, work 80, 90 hours a week or whatever. And, God's help, like I said, this person, I share my story, you know what I mean? Like, and try to come against me, do all this stuff. That's what narcissists, I'm very, I share a lot about this to help a lot of people, and a lot of people that are not awakened. And, it's one of my, real gifted, you know what I mean? And so, but they are not, they are a counterfeit in your life, you know what I mean? They want to portray to be the real deal and all this stuff, and they're not, okay? They're not. And like I said, I went through this person trying to do so much in my life. I'm like, give up, bro. You're not it. You know what I mean? You're not it for me. You know what I mean? Like, and try to do all these illusions and lie and steal, like all these qualities that are not of God. You know what I mean? Like, and anyways, it's just like, God will never send you someone like that, okay? Or verbally put you down, talks behind your back, all this stuff, okay? And anyways, and so I go through all this stuff, you know what I mean? Like, and then I had no, I don't bow down to nobody but Jesus Christ in this world, you know what I mean? And there's a healthy, whole relationship, you know what I mean? And there's whole, healthy men and mental, you know what I mean? Like, and anyways, and so those are things, you know what I mean? Like, those are not things that you should ever settle on. Abuse, ever, you know what I mean? Verbal, mental, physical, financial is not okay, you know what I mean? And anyway, so I went through that, broke that, piece of cake, and anyways, no, it's not. I just make everything look easy. But anyways, I went through so much, you know what I mean? Like, and got back up, and just like, and so like, I am just been through so much in my life, and I'm thankful, I had no choice but depend on God, you guys. And when you have, and it's so funny because I see all these things in these quotes, and it's like my life, you know what I mean? It was like, my life is manifesting all these quotes and all this stuff. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, and anyways, and so, but yeah, this has come from a woman of strength, you know what I mean? But it's not like oh, I'm strong and prideful. No, there's just certain things that are not okay. You know what I mean? Abuse is not okay in my life whatsoever, and you will never step in my life when you abuse me. You know what I mean? And it shouldn't be with nobody. And we, like I said, we come from trauma. A lot of people all around the world, everybody has trauma, some form or what, but it's our job. It may not, what's done to us is not okay, but it is our job as an adult, as we grow, to heal those trauma wounds, okay? And not to project them onto people, you know what I mean? Like, and in a hurtful way, you know what I mean? An intentional way, like the narcissist does. But it is our job to do that. Otherwise, you can't be in people's lives. You know what I mean? And so, and it's not okay. You know what I mean? Like, you give people grace. You know what I mean? Like, and this is one thing I did. You give people grace and stuff like that, and they abuse that power, and it's time to go. You know what I mean? Like, I already let go a long time ago, and that's a whole nother video, how the narc becomes obsessed, all that stuff like that. The tables and eventually turn, you heal, you evolve, it's just a lesson. That's all they are. It's just a lesson, you guys, like a lesson. Okay. And to know your worth and to know your value. I always call it the lesson before the blessing comes in. Okay. Because God really wants you to learn what love is before he sends the real thing in. You know what I mean? So you know how to be loved, and, yeah, and I will talk more and more about that. You know what I mean? Like, and like I said, I'm very proud of the woman I become, and thanks to only God that did the work with me and God that did the work in my life, the healing work to be the woman I am today. Nobody else but God and myself. I co-created with him. I call myself Christ-made, okay? And of the woman I become, because we started from ground zero, you know what I mean? And this is what God taught me. We have to build a foundation. If you don't have, like I said, I have a deep relationship with God. If you don't have a deep relationship, that's the foundation for a healthy relationship. Okay, a healthy, whole relationship. I've done so much work, let me tell you that. And God has prepped me and primed me. And when that time, you know what I mean? It's called divine timing and stuff like that. I am that's a whole nother video. I don't want to go in there, but God is just unbelievable. And so I just wanted to share the strength, coming from, but there's different things I see in this world, and there's a difference, like, and I see girls and women, and I've helped a lot, that are still hurt, that are still healing, and they're strong, but they still need to heal, you know what I mean? Like, and like, I've done a lot of healing, so I have that strength, but yet, that softness too, you get what I'm saying? Because I healed from that, and anybody knows, depending on your situation, I talk to a lot of women, and people being, about, toxic relationships, stuff like that. And, like I said, it's our job to heal, and it's not no one else's job. You know what I mean? And when people start projecting that on you, that's when it's time to go. You know what I mean? Or when people are hurting you or not valuing you, that's, like, and I've learned like I said, huge. I broke a generation Christian in my situation. Huge. Okay. And let me just tell you, and again, I learned, like I said, I learned all my lessons, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm very thankful, and, I'm thankful I broke that cycle of abuse in my bloodline, and my ancestors are proud. And, again, like I said, I'm a beautiful, beautiful soul, you know what I mean? Like, and again, God's called me here and tell people, I'm very anointed. I came from the rock bottom, you guys, and I share my story, and genuinely to help people, you know what I mean? And, again, like, I love sharing my story. Like, I healed, and now when you go through something again, I'm not healed, you really just like are, I've been through that, where you're just quiet, you're just, you know what I mean? Like, and that's because you're healing, you know what I mean? Like, but now that I healed and evolved, I'm like, let's talk. And I've done so much work, so I'm very open, you guys, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm just very proud, and you should be proud. That's what the point of the cross is coming as you are broken and letting God to heal you, involve, and change your life, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with our brokenness, life happens, shit happens, excuse my language, but like, that's when, but when you're really trying to change and evolve, that it's great. But when you try to stay the same and you never, you know what I mean, like, that's a different story. Enough is, God's like, you know what I mean, there, but anyways, like I said, I'm really deep into it, and you're gonna hear a lot about that, and me talking really deep things, you know what I mean? Like I said, I'm at this point in my life, like, I just love digging deep, digging deep into my healing. I dissect things. I just want to know, like, I'm just like, again, and that, I keep growing, and I'm going to be able to help more and more as I learn more and more as the Lord teaches me through my anointing. And, again, I've been through this stuff, you guys. So I share from my passion, and not just that, I healed and evolved from it, and I overcame. Okay. And so, it's like I had to go through it before I could go and, share it, you know what I mean? On here, it's like everything, you can think of everything I've been through, and that's where, I've been a very strong woman, you guys, and you come across me, I'm very strong, and I don't tolerate nothing, you know what I mean? Like, I learned my lessons in life. Now I'm at this point, like, I go out here and I do my thing. I'm bad. Like, I am a bad ass for the kingdom. Let me tell you guys, okay? And I'm here to lift and motivate and inspire, and I just want to send you love and light. And so, coming from a strong woman here, but a confident, strong, there's a difference, you know what I mean? Like, and it should never be, when you heal and evolve, God, if you do feel like you want that, God has a beautiful blessing for you, but he wants you to be where I'm at right now, where nothing is tolerable, no abuse, nothing. You will know your value, you know your worth, you know who you are, okay? Like this, okay, honey, or sir, or whatever, before he could bring that in your life, the real one. Otherwise, he'll keep bringing lessons in your life, what we call them, you know what I mean? Counterfeits, low vibrational, people that are going to use you, abuse you, until you learn that lesson. He will not bring another high value person in your life until, you know what I mean? Until you know your worth, you know what I mean? Because he doesn't, because you'll ruin it, or you know what I mean? Like, so, but anyways, yes. Thank you so much for listening to me. And why, coming from I don't know how to say that, from why I am so strong in the way I am, and I'm thankful for my strength. It can be sometimes a weakness. I mean, yeah, a weakness sometimes. And now I've gotten better at that. You know what I mean? It's just, certain people I just don't allow. You know what I mean? Like, but I've learned to allow. And I'm learning allow slowly. Men and back in my life. And whole wholesome, and that's what I've been attracting a lot, is whole high vibrational men now, and I'm very thankful, and again, learning, that relationship, and God taught me how to have a really healthy, you know what I mean, like, and this 15 years, and like I said, I did a lot of work, you guys, and I'm very thankful, and again, looking for the same thing, and I just want to say God bless you guys. I love you, and thank you for listening to my story and my journey and my spiritual journey and everything in between. And anything else, this is long, but thank you for listening, and I'll see you in my next video. Okay, bye.